What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Team Member Perspective podcast training show. My name is Coulter. I'm your host, and I want to do a little bit of a training today around selling life insurance. And I want to teach you a system that you can take, implement in your day-to-day conversations with your customers to write a lot of life insurance applications and then write premium from those same applications. Okay, and I want you to write this down. There's really only two ways to grow our life insurance book of business. The first way is that we can write more apps. Okay, the more applications that we write, whether they're small popcorn policies, whether it's a $2 increase on a term policy, the more applications that we write, the bigger your life insurance book is going to get. Okay, and the second way that we can grow our life insurance book is to make those apps worth more. Okay, I want to teach you a system that I use as a team member that helped me to systematize. When you think about what that word means, systematize apps, but then systematize a way to then make those apps worth more. And I'm telling you, this can work for you too. This can help you get to a place where you're writing over 100 life insurance applications every year, and a place where you're writing $100,000 in annual life premium every year. Okay, I'm seeing it happen with team members nationwide, and I proved that this could work. I proved it for a handful of years, okay? And so what is this system? How can we have a system that will allow us to write apps, but then make those apps worth more, okay? Well, over here at the whiteboard, I'm going to draw a visual for you, okay? And this is my system, okay? And I would encourage you to adopt it, but it's called the life insurance funnel, okay? There are 3 steps to this funnel. Step 1, step 2, and step 3. Okay, now again, this is going to be your system that will allow you to write apps, but then also write premium as well. Okay, so step number 1 of this life insurance funnel is going to be to solve one immediate need. Okay, we're not going to try to do too much. We're just going to position life insurance to solve one immediate need, and we'll dive in to what that looks like in just a moment. Step number 2 is then what we're going to do is at the issuance of every life policy that we write, we are going to hold a review with them at the issuance. Okay, so we're going to call step number 2 an issuance review. And then step number 3 is going to be our annual review of their life policy. Okay, so this life insurance funnel became the system that I was using that allowed me to find consistency. And if you think about it, because many team members, many agents are like, I ask them what they're looking for, and they're like, I'm looking for more consistency. Cool. What helps you get more consistency, right? For me, it's a system. If I know what to do every single day, and I can do it repeatedly, that to me is a system. And I remember being a team member, coming off my 3rd year, I sold 123 life apps, and that was cool. But I remember feeling like instead of having this pressure to perform, I don't really have that pressure anymore because I wrote 123 life apps, right? I was the top producer in the state of Utah, and I felt like I have kind of checked that box, like I was performing. Okay, but unbeknownst to me, I thought that this pressure was going to go away. Okay, but little did I didn't realize, but in going to my 4th year, I remember, that pressure to perform wasn't necessarily there, but there was still pressure. And it was this pressure to keep performing. And, the way I see it is, I didn't want to be a one-hit wonder. And honestly, in my mind, I was like, did I just get lucky? Did I just have an outlandish year? But I didn't want to be a one-hit wonder. I wanted to be consistent. And so, going into my 4th year, I realized that, okay, dude, as long as you keep doing what you're doing, you've got the apps figured out. Like 123 life apps, like you did really well. Just keep doing what you're doing and you'll probably continue to get life insurance apps. And at the end of the day, guys, my 4th year, I did 231 life apps. Okay, so I still produced apps at a high level. Okay, and what allowed me to do that was this step number 1. Instead of trying to solve every single need with a life insurance policy, in my day-to-day service conversations, okay, because I was a hybrid team member. So I'm taking inbound calls, people calling in to add vehicles, complain about their bill, replace renters policies, add drivers. Like I was taking all these service calls, okay? I was also drumming up new business, okay? So I was working raw new business. I was trying to bring in new business. And I was also calling on lists. And so what allowed me to systematize life insurance app production was this step: solve one immediate need. So in my day-to-day service calls, instead of trying to just sell life insurance and try to get customers the full, need that they have in death benefit, instead of trying to do that, I just picked one of those needs to start with, right? In my new business phone calls, same thing. And even when I would call customers on lists, I would position life insurance to solve one immediate need rather than trying to solve every single need. Now, I remember I kind of had this limiting belief that I was working through as a team member. And it was, am I doing people a disservice by selling them these smaller death benefit policies when they probably do need more coverage? I remember feeling that. And honestly, at times I remember that kind of kept me from having conversations with people. And, it sat in my mind for a little bit. It was there until I took a phone call. Someone calling in to say that someone just died in a car accident. And they asked me, hey, do we have any coverage on the homeowner's policy or on the homeowner's policy to help cover these things? And, I had to tell them no. And so after that phone call, I remember sitting in my chair. I remember very vividly. And I remember thinking like, am I really doing people a disservice by selling them a smaller policy? I mean, in this specific situation, how far would, a $25,000 death benefit, how far could that have gone here? And, the answer to that is it would have definitely helped. It would have helped this single dad have time and space to mourn for the loss of his son, but he didn't have the luxury to do that. He had to be thrown right back into work because there was no coverage in place. Now, $25,000, right? That's, for a lot of us, that's a popcorn policy. And we feel, why would I sell that to people? It's like I'm doing them a disservice. They need way more than that, okay? Although that might be true, guys, sometimes even $25,000, $50,000, $100,000 can do a lot more for them and their family than you might think, okay? But going into my 4th year, I was like, how do I keep doing these apps? And at the end of the day, that's what it was. Stop trying to do too much. Solve one immediate need in the way that you're trying to sell life insurance, right? Pay off a loan on a car, cover a mortgage or part of the mortgage, cover rent payments for a couple years, leave money behind to cover a funeral, right? Don't try to do too much too soon, okay? Because you got to understand where your customers are at mentally, right? We're not just life insurance agents, we're P&C agents. And the way that we get to life insurance production is through the P&C. And so when people are calling to get quotes from you, they're not thinking about life insurance. They're thinking about home and auto. When, people are calling in to add a vehicle or to change an address or to ask questions about their policies or their bill, they're thinking about their auto insurance. They're thinking about their homeowner's insurance. They're not thinking about life insurance. And same thing when you're calling outbound to customers, right? And so I realized that, I got to meet the customers where they are, right? I've got to find a way to have this auto conversation set me up and transition me over to this life insurance conversation in a very natural and smooth way, right? I almost have to, in ways, position life insurance to feel like it's an extension of the auto policy, an extension of the homeowner's policy, of the renter's policy. And, that helped me to start selling more apps, right? When I stopped trying to do too much too soon and instead just solve one immediate need, I started to write life insurance apps, and that became my system to writing apps. And again, I was doing it with service calls that I was taking. In my mind, I was like, this is somebody to talk to, right? And they're calling me, they're giving me their time and attention. That's great. I just need to be where my feet are and find a way to make life insurance make sense for them based on their policies that they have with me in their current situation, and not try to do too much too soon. And guess what? I started writing a lot of apps. Okay, same thing with new business enlist. Position life insurance initially to solve one immediate need because these people aren't prepared to have the 5-minute life needs analysis conversation. They're not prepared to spend all of this money on life insurance today. They really just called in with questions on their auto insurance. Okay, so understanding where your customers are at mentally and what their mental capacity is, like that's going to help you start selling more life insurance at the level that they're at, right? So we've first got to go to where the customers are to then be able to get them to where we want to go. Okay. And so, my third year, okay, that was my first breakout year to being able to sell life insurance apps. I wrote 123 apps with about $35,000 in submitted annual premium. So if you do the math, I was averaging like $284-ish per policy that I was writing. So you better believe that Coulter wasn't writing these big life insurance death benefits. Coulter was writing these smaller policies, okay? But because I took that phone call, I developed the belief that, hey, something is better than nothing. Something is better than nothing, okay? But then my second belief is that more is better than something. And so that's where going to my fourth year, I started and I developed these last two steps, the issuance review and the annual life review. Okay, and I wouldn't say that I developed them, but I started to actually run them and implement them into my process, okay? And so essentially, this issuance review, step number 2 was this. It was this thought that I had. Before getting into insurance, I was a door-to-door salesman. And I remember being taught, hey, Coulter, if the customer buys from you once, they might just buy from you again. And so I remember thinking about that going into my fourth year. Again, I come off of a year where I do 123 apps, had a great breakthrough year, but I didn't do a whole lot in premium. I knew that I was writing smaller apps, but I knew that it was now time to really get things in place to go after more premium as well. And so going to my third year, I was like, can I get in front of these people again? And because if they told me yes once, they might just tell me yes again for more coverage. And so that's when I started holding these issuance reviews. Basically, at the issuance of every life policy that I wrote, I would then hold a mini review with the customer at the issuance of their policy, where I would then go into an upsell for more coverage, which is the issuance review. Okay. Now, in this review, the customer doesn't necessarily have an agenda, whereas they might have when they called in for a bill, or maybe you're quoting them new business and they're really just trying to get their auto insurance taken care of today. Or maybe even when you call on lists, like customers didn't have an agenda. They didn't really know what to expect. All that they knew in this issuance review was that Coulter, said that I need to come pick up my policy and that we needed to just make sure it's set up how I want it set up, right? And so from the beginning, customers, they don't have an agenda, and so the agenda is mine, right? I can be in control from the very beginning, and the customer has mental capacity to actually go deeper with me in a coverage conversation in regards to life insurance, okay? And so in this issuance review, the whole point of this issuance review is to bring awareness to the bigger exposure, okay? To bring awareness to the bigger exposure, and we can call that problem awareness, okay? Because I found that if I could help customers see the bigger exposure, if I could help, Joey understand that, hey, Joey, okay, you called me, we added your new truck, and we got a small coverage, $100,000 coverage to pay off that truck so that, Susie and the kids don't have to deal with this added burden, like on top of trying to deal with losing you. And they, they don't have to worry about selling the truck out of necessity. They don't have to worry about tapping or potentially exhausting the savings account just to keep up with these things. And they don't have to have this added financial stress, like on top of trying to deal with losing you and on top of, Susie trying to be emotionally strong for the kids, right? Like that's taken care of, right? I got to remind, Joey at this issuance review why we set the policy up in the first place and why he told me yes, right? But then the idea is in this issuance review is after that I've helped Joey remember why we set this up and really connect it to, hey, it's going to be there to pay off the loan on the truck so that Susie doesn't have to deal with this. Now I'm in a position where I can then go for more, right? And I found that when I can help bring awareness for Joey to the bigger exposure of maybe, we might need more coverage here for Susie and the kids. when I could help him see the problem and the potential severity of that problem, it would create this natural demand for the solution to get more coverage. Okay, and so how do we bring awareness to the problem? Well, it's in your ability to ask the right questions, right? And in influence and persuasion, what do you think is more powerful? Is it Coulter's opinion as a salesperson for Joey to get more life insurance coverage? Or is it Joey's idea to get more life insurance coverage? It's going to be Joey's idea all day long. Like, people don't like to be told what to do. But when it's their idea, it's a completely different ballgame. So the question is what questions do we ask to bring more awareness to the bigger exposure that Joey faces by not having enough coverage to maybe cover the mortgage that he has to keep the family in the house, to maybe cover rent payments to keep the family in the apartment or in the house, to maybe replace income? Like, what questions can we ask to bring more awareness to the problem? Okay, because here's the thing is, like, if Joey doesn't think that he has a problem, or if Joey feels like his problem's not very big, like it's a minimal problem, how much weight does your solution carry to get more coverage to solve this problem that Joey doesn't even think that he has? Well, the answer to that, there's not a whole lot of weight. So your recommendations don't carry weight when Joey doesn't see the problem, the bigger exposure that he faces by not having more coverage. Right? And so the whole point of this issuance review, first and foremost, is to review the policy that you wrote, remind the customer what it is going to do for them based on how you sold it to begin with, but then go for more. But going for more really starts with helping Joey see that bigger problem. Okay? And, for the sake of this podcast, like, I'm not going to go into the specific questions to ask, but in our group, in our weekly live trainings that we do in our group, we do cover those things into detail. Okay? Now, here's the cool thing. You will increase your odds by 100% of selling more life premium by holding issuance reviews. You get another at-bat. And I don't know about you, I like the idea of having 2 at-bats and rather than just 1 at-bat. Right? This issuance review is another at-bat for you to sell more life insurance, to make more money. And so for me, that became the system. Every life policy that I wrote, I would make a point to get in front of them again at the issuance of the policy, to do a review with the idea of, I'm going to bring more awareness to the problem. I'm going to help Joey understand and see that, hey, yeah, the truck's paid off, but the mortgage isn't. Your rent payments aren't. Your income's going to stop. Right? I'm going to bring more awareness to the problem, which is going to create a demand for the solution to getting more coverage, and I'm going to get more premium if I can start holding these issuance reviews consistently. Okay? And so that was a big player to my production in my 4th year. I went my 3rd year, 123 apps with 35,000 in premium. My 4th year, I ended up doing 231 apps with 100,000 in premium. Meeting with customers at the issuance of their policy gave me that other at-bat, which allowed me to build out my premium with the customer there. Okay? And then step 3 was, okay, well, I just met with Joey, right? We added his vehicle. I wrote a $100,000 life policy to pay off the loan on his truck. And I got in front of him as soon as that policy issued, and I, asked the right questions to bring awareness to the bigger exposure. And, Joey's like, well, Coulter, yeah, I want enough coverage to pay off the mortgage on my home because I don't want Susie to be in that position. And so we took this policy from $100,000 that we started with, and now we've got $1 million in coverage. Awesome. You're going to write a lot more premium by doing that. Well, step 3 would then come in. In a year from now, I want to get in front of Joey again and hold an annual life review because Joey already believes in life insurance. I don't have to sell him on the concept. He already believes in it. He owns a policy. I just need to sell him on a review, and naturally in these reviews, you are going to get into, term bumps, okay, where you can get more coverage, aka more premium and another app. You're going to be able to get into conversions, which, my word, there is so much money in converting term policies to permanent policies in this opportunity. And I can also go for coverage for spouse, for kids, for parents, just by simply holding these annual life reviews. Okay, so this became the system for me that allowed me to not only write apps, but then make those apps worth more by holding these review appointments. And if you think about it, if I, am a team member that does any sort of service work, well, guess what? You're getting all of these service calls every single day. You might not be selling life insurance because you're trying to go for too much too soon when the customer really just called in to pay a bill. When the customer really just called in to get their car added, you're trying to do way too much too soon, which causes analysis paralysis for customers. And you probably hear a lot of, oh, this sounds good, but I just need to think about it. Hey, Coulter, I need to talk to my spouse. You're probably running into that because it's a really big decision. It's hard for people to say yes to. And so you find that maybe you're not even writing policies at all. My recommendation to you is stop trying to do too much. Meet the customer where they are and position life insurance to solve one immediate need. Now, again, how can we do that with different demographics, with people that have loans, people that don't have loans, people that have mortgages, that don't have mortgages, the younger demographic that are 18-year-olds, the older demographic that are 65 and approaching retirement. Like, there's so much nuance to selling life insurance that, that there's so many ways to do it. And those are the things that we train in detail in our group, is teaching team members how to take the complexity out of the life insurance conversation and start writing apps. And right here, this is it. Position it to solve one immediate need to start, knowing that, hey, that's okay because something's better than nothing, but knowing that you are going to then meet with the customer again at the issuance. If you want to think like a top producer, then you're going to systematize more at-bats, more times getting in front of people, but knowing that, hey, in this issuance review, this is really where I'm going to go for more, right? This is really where I'm going to do, the life needs analysis and make sure that the customer realizes that, hey, we can actually get you more coverage. And hey, here's the exposure. We bring awareness to the problem or the gap, which creates this natural demand for the solution. And you'd be surprised that even though you write all these popcorn policies to start, by meeting at the issuance, you turn these popcorn policies into bigger, more comprehensive policies for customers. Okay. And then after that, all of these life insurance policies that you write and that you hold issuance reviews with are going to be opportunities for you to hold annual life reviews next year. So I want you to think about this. My third year, I wrote 123 apps. Awesome. I really was only solving one immediate need. I wasn't doing issuance reviews or really annual life reviews. I started to do that my fourth year, but my third year, I wrote 123 apps, 123. So guess how many opportunities I had to hold annual life reviews because I wrote 123 life apps the year before? 123. Okay. Now, if my third year, I would have understood that, hey, meet with them again at the issuance, I'm sure my premium would have been far more than $35,000 in premium my third year. But I found that my fourth year, and so that's really what helped me get into more premium, was meeting with them at the issuance and meeting with them again in a year. And guys, here's the thing, is the more apps that you can feed into this funnel, the more opportunities you're going to have at getting higher premiums. And the more premium that we can write, the more money that you're going to have in your wallet, right? The bigger your commission check is going to be. But again, it's not, let's make more money. It's like, how do we do it? And for me, it's a system that allows me to, have multiple at-bats, that's very strategic, meets the customer where they are, so then we can get them to where we want to go. Okay, so guys, this is the life insurance funnel. This is really, in our group, we focus on each of these steps in detail, in the nuances. We'll train on, what if I get objections? How do we handle them? We'll train you on that, right? What questions do I ask in these issuance reviews? We'll train on that. What do I do when I hold an annual life review? Like, where do I start? And what questions am I asking? And what am I showing people? We'll train you on that, because here's the thing, is it's in the nuances where you're going to find a breakthrough in your production. It's a small tweak to what you're saying, a small tweak to how you're opening conversations and you're pivoting. It's a small tweak to how you're building value and helping the customer see why it would be important for them. It's a small tweak to how you're delivering the price to the customer that can make all of the difference. I believe that you're one conversation away from completely changing your production forever. I believe that you're one issuance review away from unlocking premium forever. I believe that you're one annual life review away from your confidence absolutely changing forever and your paycheck absolutely changing forever. Guys, the team member role is an opportunity. It's not a job. It's an opportunity to make as much money as you want. And I have found that by focusing on a systematic way to write apps, but then make those apps worth more is what really unlocks that paycheck. I appreciate you guys. If you want to get involved with us, we're going to be starting our Finish Strong series. For those of you that need last minute apps, last minute premium, November, December, we've got you covered. We're going to teach you how to go out and do that. And then for January, February, and March, we've got our coveted Fast Start series. We can't wait. Would love to have you guys click that link below, get on a call with me, and let's get your team plugged in as well.